Hello writers! I wanted to make a video about giving feedback in a writing class, but this video will probably help you in all of your classes. I know that it's difficult to give feedback and a lot of students end up relying on what teachers call attaboys. You give a lot of attaboys. You did it, you tell your classmate, oh, you did a good job, that looks great, attaboy, you're doing good. That's really not useful to anyone. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help your classmate. It doesn't help your teacher see that you have learned anything or know what you're talking about. So even if you have some teachers who are going to give you an acceptable grade when you give feedback that doesn't really add anything to the conversation, you're really kind of shortchanging yourself. And this is something that I like to, kind of make everyone think about when I can, which is there are certainly ways to get around doing some of your work in college, but you are here because you have chosen to be here. You are all adults, many of you in the military. If you're not, you probably have jobs, you have families, and you have made the choice to come to college, to take your time and take your money and go to college. And your goal here should be to learn as much as you can. Your number one goal in college is to learn. So even if you get by giving feedback that's not particularly good or useful, you're not learning anything and you're not helping your classmates learn, so you're doing yourself a disservice. So the first thing I want to suggest that you do before you give feedback is ask, why are you giving feedback? You need to know your goal before you can successfully do something. So your goal is to help your classmates reach their goal of doing well on the assignment. So you want to give them feedback that they can then use to make future assignments better, or even to perhaps respond to their original post or repost something, if they were missing something, or add to their post to help them. Now, your other reason for giving feedback is to build your own skills. And this is one of the things that I think students forget a lot. When you are giving your classmates feedback, you're learning. I will tell you, absolutely, hands down, I learned more about grammar, punctuation, and writing in my first session teaching English classes, than I did in all of my years taking English classes. I certainly learned a lot taking the English classes, but when I actually got in there and had to correct other people's work, suddenly it wasn't okay to make the occasional mistake. I needed to really know everything. So that's how I want you to look at this. You are teaching yourself what you need to know by critiquing your classmates' work. You're looking for their mistakes, and you will then learn not to make those mistakes. So if you wrote your paragraph perhaps in first person or second person, and I comment on it and I say, this essay has to be in third person, this is what that means. And then you're reading one of your classmates' posts and you see that they didn't write in third person. Now, there's the part of you, that very human part of you, that is going to feel like, I cannot critique them on this because I made this mistake myself. So where do I, have the right to do this? But you really have to look at it like, oh, I made this mistake myself, and now I have learned from it, and I can help my classmate not make this mistake or fix this mistake. And the great thing about this is, if you passively read my comment that says, remember that all essays must be in third person, academic essays should be in third person, unless otherwise noted, I write that a lot, it'll probably go in one ear and out the other. Yeah, whatever. But if you then take that and use that and teach your classmate that and look specifically, tell yourself, like, let me look to see who's made this mistake so I can help them with it. And you're looking for that in other people's work, you will not make that mistake again. When you teach someone something, you learn it better than when you passively try to learn it. So I really can't stress enough how really, and this is true in all of your classes, if you're in a literature class and you teach one of your classmates something about literature or about a point of view or about something, whatever it may be, or if this is a Homeland Security class, whatever it is, if you're giving your classmates useful feedback in their posts, you are more likely to remember it. So a great thing to do is to say, this is something I'm struggling with understanding. Let me do a little bit of research on this, and then specifically look for posts where I can kind of help the other people learn what I've just tried to learn. And by giving them that information, trust me, you're going to remember it better and you're going to learn it. So most people haven't been taught how to give feedback. So the way that you give feedback, especially in a writing class, is you want to give specific and actionable feedback. So if you're just like, oh, this is a good topic, I really think that's an interesting topic, blah, 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 my life this, and I did work in real estate, and you're writing about real estate, and that's not useful, specific, or actionable. If you say, your thesis statement doesn't have 3 parts, and it needs to have 3 parts, that is specific and actionable. If you say, the instructions say that we are writing a problem and solution essay, and this topic doesn't seem to work for that, that is specific and actionable feedback. It's something that your classmates can take and use to work on their writing or on their assignment. Once again, specific is, give examples. So you can do that by saying, in this sentence, and then you could just copy it, paste it, put it in quotation marks. If you're quoting someone else, just put it in quotation marks. You don't have to cite somebody's work from, the forums or something if you're responding to it, but put it in quotation marks so it's very clear that it's their writing. And say, this is where I noticed you did this. Another way you can give examples or give useful feedback is to refer to the instructions or the rubric. And you can, once again, copy and paste here. You can say, if you notice in the instructions it says, and then copy and paste that and say, it looks like in your assignment you didn't do that, and this is where I saw that you didn't do that. This is the sort of feedback that is going to get any teacher to want to give you 100% on that. And also, little secret is when we see that sort of feedback, we're going to think, oh, this is a great student. And everything else that you post, we're going to be kind of going into it thinking that you know what you're talking about, that you're a good student. It's a kind of a natural bias, but you want to present yourself as being a strong student because it's just going to kind of make everybody else look at you that way. So it's kind of a good thing. It's just like if you're going for a job or anything like that, you want to put your best foot forward. So now, how to present the feedback. I know a lot of students feel very uncomfortable giving criticism, really. It's easy to say you did a great job or this is interesting, but criticizing someone else's work is difficult. It's difficult even for teachers, especially when I teach creative writing and people write about things that are very personal. It's awkward and a little bit hard to give feedback on the work. And when you're unsure of your own writing ability, as a lot of students are, you feel especially unsure of yourself giving feedback. And you don't want to hurt your classmates' feelings because you probably don't particularly like to get negative feedback either or criticism. And you don't want to do that to someone else. But, you're getting graded on this. This is how you learn. So a great thing to do is use the sandwich technique. So what you want to do is you write one positive thing. Say, you did a good job using a 3-part thesis statement. However, I noticed that you used second person in a number of sentences, such as, quote it, and we are, according to the instructions, we're not supposed to use second person. And then, give another piece of positive feedback. And, things like, I really like your topic, or, I can relate to this, or whatever, that all can go into your kind of sandwich there where you're giving some positives and some negatives. You don't want all of your positives to just be attaboys, but it's okay if that's where you're going to put a little bit of that, as long as it's in the context of framing useful and specific feedback. So another thing that I want to tell you, and I really, it kind of goes back to what I was saying before, is putting your best foot forward. And this is definitely a suggestion that I'm going to suggest you use in all of your classes, anytime that you're dealing with teachers, anytime you're dealing with bosses, anytime you're dealing with a potential client or boss, anyone in a position of authority or a position to, like I said, like a future client or something like that, don't question yourself. Don't put yourself down. Don't start it with like, I don't really know what I'm talking about, or I could be wrong, or maybe, maybe this isn't right. And don't do that. When you do that, you're automatically making the person question you. You're automatically making them look at you as if you don't know what you're talking about. And you really don't want to do that. You want to present yourself with confidence in everything that you do. It's just a good way to go through your life, and it's definitely a good way in your classes. Once again, I was saying there's a natural bias. As much as your teachers are going to fight against doing it, if you start an email or you start, you submit a paper and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm a terrible writer and this paper's going to be terrible. I have to try to force my brain not to go into that paper expecting it to be terrible. And if I go into it expecting it to be terrible, it's harder not to kind of see the mistakes or see it, the weaknesses more. So you really don't want to do that. And you don't want to do it really in any situation where you can avoid doing that. You want to avoid doing that. What you should do, though, if you don't feel confident, is do your research and become confident. So if you notice that somebody has written in, second person, or maybe you're like, I don't know, is this word second person or not second person? Not really sure. Let me look it up. And you can just go on the internet, go to the school library, look it up, look in the instructions, reread the instructions, go to the rubric, reread the rubric, and, find out for sure if you're correct, and then present that information with confidence. I don't want my students to go through life presenting misinformation with confidence. That is not what I am suggesting to you. What I am suggesting to you is, if you're not confident, become confident in your answer and then give the correct information with confidence. And it's not that difficult these days because all of the information in the world is at your fingertips. And that is an amazing thing because I'm old enough to remember, and I know a lot of my students also are old enough to remember, that there was a time when that wasn't true. So some of you are not old enough to remember that. Some of you have had every bit of information at your fingertips for as long as you can remember. And then others of us know what it's like to be like, okay, let me get the encyclopedia. Oh, well, this encyclopedia is too old to even know this. Let me go down to the library and, it's a couple miles away. Maybe you're a kid, you don't even drive yet. You got to walk to the library, take out their encyclopedia, look up the information. And I know I'm dating myself a little here, but it's a real pain. And it's just an amazing thing that if you're not sure about the answer to something, you can look it up and have it right in front of you in seconds. So always look for credible sources. Use the school library when you can. Use Google Scholar, because there are a lot of misinformation on the internet. And once again, remember that giving feedback is as much for you as it is for your classmates. You will learn so much more if you start really giving this useful and specific and actionable feedback. So hopefully this has helped some of you. And if you have any questions, I am always here. Let me know.